Premier, thank you so much for speaking to ABC News.
Pleasure.
What do you see as your achievements over the last 2 years, the government?
Well, things I'm particularly proud of, just to rattle off a few, getting the state's economy going, creating jobs at 3 times the rate of other states. In terms of government services, a real turnaround in health. Queenslanders haven't seen it yet, but best elective surgery times in the nation, vastly improved emergency access results, and a huge reduction in people on the public dental waiting list. In our schools, more funding for our teachers to help our kids, real resources going in there. A great improvement in terms of crime, 42% drop in armed robberies on the Gold Coast due to more police and tougher laws. And I think the final one, just on terms of public transport, we inherited a situation where the rail system was suffering huge delays and poor performance. We've now had the best performance, on-time running for a decade. So there are many other things, but those are ones that I'm particularly proud of.
Some of those policies indeed have been controversial, and they have in fact caused arguments or fights, you could say, with public servants initially. We're seeing the situation play out with doctors now. You've taken on bikies, the judiciary. Do you enjoy a fight?
Well, I don't actually, but reform requires that you challenge the status quo. And sadly, across Queensland, there have been all sorts of issues that needed to be sorted out.
So you said that you don't enjoy a fight, so are you going to oppose the High Court challenge to your anti-gang laws?
Well, of course we have to, because, these are criminal gangs who are trying to protect criminal enterprises. Drug manufacture, distribution, extortion rackets, even sort of financial services scams. They're into all sorts of quite terrible things that impact on our community. We have to win the fight. But I just say that because we've got more police, because of the tougher laws and the stance we've taken, we've seen a 42% decrease in armed robberies on the Gold Coast, and also a 20 to 23% in decrease in burglaries and assault. So it's really working. And if you go down to the Gold Coast, the people who are at the centre, the epicentre of these terrible things that trigger the whole crackdown, they're very happy. They'll tell you they're happy that their lives can now be lived without the fear of criminal gangs.
Did the Solicitor General's resignation, which came on the same day that this challenge was launched by bikies, did that have anything to do with the challenge itself?
Look, you'd have to ask the Solicitor General, but I'll say I had no knowledge of any sort of connection. I have no knowledge of any connection, and the Solicitor General has been a key person behind the laws. So the Solicitor General was the person who actually formulated the laws. In fact, some of the things that were put forward were actually put forward prior to the notorious affray or riot on the Gold Coast. And the Solicitor General personally came and argued in Cabinet and convinced Cabinet that these were the laws that we should implement. So he had a strong role, and I thank him for that. I really thank him for getting behind the community to come up with laws to go after gangs. And that's important because we hadn't seen action and an effective response in the past, despite a lot of talk.
So as far as you're concerned, it's just a coincidence?
I just don't know anything about what the circumstances are, other than I'm really appreciative of the great work that he did to literally formulate, draft these laws. Some of this actually happened prior to what went on the Gold Coast. He actually came forward and said, prior to the problem that triggered the whole thing, he actually was proposing ways to deal with criminal gangs in general.
Are you confident that the laws will withstand this challenge?
Well, look, that's a matter for the High Court. You never know what you'll get when you go into the legal system.
But you are going to oppose them, so you must have some confidence that the laws will stand up.
I'm confident that we had the best legal mind at work in developing these laws, and that was Walter Sofronoff QC. He was the key architect of these laws. The laws are there, they've been created, they're reality.
I guess when we talk about this legal debate though, the government was also confident that its sex offender laws could withstand a challenge in the High Court, but then you abandoned that High Court challenge.
Well, I'll just say this, we as a government have done everything we can under the normal processes of the rule of law to try and create the toughest laws to deal with sex offenders, to deal with pedophiles.
So where are those sex offender laws at?
To deal with criminal gangs. Well, we're there working on these issues on a day-by-day basis. So, for example, just today, the Attorney-General has said that he will challenge the recent sentence in relation to the kill of Daniel Morecambe. That's an example how we'll tirelessly keep working on these things because we want, ultimately, to make a safer Queensland.
A cynic might suggest that that decision to challenge Daniel Morcombe's killer's sentence is politically motivated because that case pulls on the heartstrings of so many Queenslanders.
Well, this government went to office saying that we'd make this the safest place to raise a child in Australia. Now, that's a matter of the public record. So once we got into office, we actually started implementing laws.
So why is it necessary to appeal against that sentence, given that after the sentence was handed down, the Morcombes said they were satisfied with it, and Justice Rosalind Atkinson, when handing out the sentence, said that she didn't believe that at the end of that 20 years he should be released?
What we've done over the last few days is we've looked at the case, we've considered the matters, we've consulted people, and we've consulted the Morcombes. So Bruce and Denise Morcombe support what the Attorney-General has announced, and that is the challenging of this sentence. So they're backing it 100%.
So are you suggesting they were unsatisfied with the sentence?
Well, I can only say you'd have to ask the Morcombes. But I know the Attorney-General was, when I was at the gym this morning, talking to Denise Morcombe on the phone. And he had also spoken to Bruce the previous evening. So they are supporting what the government is doing. And indeed, that also reflects the need to continue to be consistent with what we said, that someone like this should never get out.
Let's move on to another legal stoush, and lawyer Chris Hannay has asked for an apology over comments that you and the Attorney-General made in regards to lawyers who represent bikies as being part of the criminal gang machine. Where is that matter at?
Well, you'll have to ask Mr Hannay.
He's threatened to sue you for defamation and he's asking for an apology.
That's his democratic and legal right, but as of today, he has not sought to do that.
If he follows through on his threat to sue you, will you fight it with taxpayers' money?
Well, of course I will. I'm in this position, and that is the way that it's been done for many, many years. Anna Bligh was sued by Clive Palmer, and so was Andrew Fraser, and that's a long-standing practice in public life, in these positions. All sorts of people want to have a go, and that's the way the system works. But I stand by my comments that we need to deal with the whole apparatus of criminal gangs in Queensland. And there are many people, not just directly in gangs, who help with the criminal enterprises that we need to defeat. People in the professions, people like accountants, for example, who know what the transactions are, who are laundering the money, who are buying the properties with ill-gotten gains.
Do you have evidence of illegal activity by lawyers or, as you say, accountants?
Well, you might want to go and talk to the Crime and Misconduct Commission, but the police and the CMC regularly provide briefings to myself and Cabinet, and they do advise us that there are professionals who are involved in the enterprises of these criminal gangs.
So we're likely to not just see bikie members being arrested, we're likely to now start seeing lawyers and accountants who work alongside them.
What you'll see is the police and the CMC working together to go after people who support criminal gangs, members of criminal gangs, and in the fullness of time, I'm very confident the police and the CMC will be making arrests and commencing prosecutions.
Before the last election, you were in the extraordinary situation of possibly not winning your seat, but the LNP winning government. You face a similar situation coming up to the election next year, don't you?
Well, the Labor Party keep peddling the same issue time and time again, and that's what happened before. Let me say, before you ask the question, I'm standing for Ashgrove. Okay, totally committed to that community, and as a local member for Ashgrove, I'll be putting on the table that in 2 years, I've delivered $55 million worth of benefits at last count to the local community.
Because before the last election, I'll quote you, you said, "We will not win this state election if I can't win Ashgrove."
Well, look, I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals. I am the member for Ashgrove. I will seek to serve the people. I seek to serve the people again. And you know what? They can really see a proud track record of achievement. $55 million worth of benefits in only 2 years. The previous local member in 6 years delivered 1 ambulance station. So it's a really good and stark choice they get to make.
Final question, Premier. Are you happy being Premier? Because you famously said that the best job you ever had was being Lord Mayor of Brisbane.
Well, I've been terribly misquoted on that. I was standing in front of a group of mayors and really applauding the great job that they do as mayors serving our community across Queensland. I'm really fired up for 2014 because a lot of other great things are going to come together this year.
Premier, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much.